Hello, me lovelies. Hope you can see me all right. You saw the thumbnail. You see what paint I'm trying, and I'm going to give you an honest opinion. Now, this series of videos, a place in the sun, shall we call it a place in the sun? I'm working over in Portugal, just outside of Vilamora. Nice house. Got a customer, stroke friend, that says, can you just help us out paint these doors, because he wanted them doing properly. That's fair enough, no problem doing that. Busman's holiday, got a pool I can use, and yeah, we're living the good life, aren't we? But I'm going to show you. You saw the video there where he actually used the CIN Aqua Primer. You know, I like that Aqua Primer, and I told you I'd come back to show you the top coat. Now, I didn't want to show you the top coat being done, the first coat over the primer. I thought I'd get all the top coat done on all the doors. I've got 40 door sides, 20 doors, 40 door sides. So I'm well into actually being able to tell you what this paint's like. But I thought I'd discuss it with you, doing a door, explaining the process of painting the door like this, particularly using the rollers that I've got. I've got the two fussy blokes 10mm nap roller, cutting in with a brush, which is the Arrowworthies. I'll explain that when I come to do it. But I thought I'll show you what it's like in the first coat stage. I'll bring you a bit closer in a moment, and then actually show you the process of painting this door with this paint, this AC Thane Satin paint, which is water-based. And I quite like it. I quite like the paint. It goes on lovely. Let's just have a look at this door first. I'll try and do it all in real time, so we'll keep under 20 minutes, all be well. Right, this is, oh, don't worry, it's going to be like smell-o-vision again. You've just got to trust me on it. You can see something, but you yeah, right, it's not Doris the door. I can tell you now, these doors are bigger than Doris the door. They're big doors. Right, I've got these doors. You saw, I'll insert some pictures what they were actually like. They were a varnish state door, which were all rubbed down with the Murky pads. I've gone over that previously. Murky padded down. We've put the undercoat on, which went on really well. The case of putting the undercoat on was just getting it on. The undercoat dries, cures, scratch testy, 7 days. Now, I did a bit of a scratch test on some of the door frames and doors within a day. I could get a little bit off, but you know, today, we're like 6 days in, going back over door frames that are still needing to be painted there. I'm scratching quite hard and not much is moving on that. Quite impressed. That undercoat, remember, it's a stain blocking adhesive primer undercoat, which I knocked off to a bit of a buffy pink because of this. I'm calling it a bit of a cookie dough colour. It's a bit of a cookie dough colour. Quite like the cookie dough colour. But we got the first coat on, and literally I did them in mouldings, did the panels, and then came around all the styles, the top rail, middle rail and bottom rail. It was more of a case of just getting it on, which is fair enough. Now we're coming to the actual serious part of the finish second coat, because this paint is like what we've got in the UK. One undercoat, two top coats. It does say on the back, actually, sometimes you might need 3 top coats. Well, is that because we've possibly used the white undercoat, you might need a 3? Thankfully, because what I've done is put a buffy, pinkish, it's in white undercoat onto it. Have I got a better coverage? Well, I don't know. I'd like to think so. But this colour, I'd expect to be covering for 2 coats. You know, when we've done the white testing, we struggle, don't we? But we know all about. There's a video there, product testing. Is it there or there? Product testing. Right, what's the process of this? Let me just pick my brush up. I've got a dry brush to show you. Now, I've been using the Arrowworthy. I brought a few Arrowworthies out. I brought the standard width standard brush, and I brought some slash cut. Now the slash cut box has only got 1.5 inches, a 2 inch and a 2.5 inch. Well, I've had 40 doors, well, 20 doors, 40 door sides to do, and frames. Times that by 3 coats. I wish I'd brought more of these because I'm smelling it. I feel it's wearing. That undercoat dries with a bit of a dry finish to it, so it's a bit gritty, and I think that's well worn because I've done 40 door sides and I've got equally as many doors to do of wardrobes. And when I do the video at the end of this job, Place in the Sun sequence of videos, I'll show you everything that I've done. It's doors, frames and wardrobes. You can probably see why that brush is starting to wear down, but I've dropped down to the 1.5 inches because what I'm doing now is, pretend this is the 1.5 inches. I'm going to tell you the process of doing this as a finished door. I'm going round these mouldings, literally going round the mouldings on the inner part of the moulding, all the way round, just coming slightly onto that panel, going all the way round. Once that's done, I'm rolling the panel. Now I roll the panel because can you see that bit of a there you go, you can see it. I'm rolling round these parts first just to get the frame done, and then I'm coming back to the main panel and then laying off. I do that top and bottom. Then what I do, because the brush is a bit smaller, I'll bring it round onto here. These edges of the mouldings might not have been caught with the first coat. So what I'm doing, I'm carefully, just with a brush with not too much paint on, and it's 1.5 inch brush I've got, I'm just going around all the edges. Now, any fatty paint that's on there, I'm literally knocking off the fatty edge. Because when you come to a door like this, I know I'm going to reiterate, when you come to a door like this and it's the finished coat, your key to painting a door is your wet edge and your open time for your paint. Now this AC Thane paint is pretty good, i.e. drying times. Touch dry in 30 minutes and recoatable in approximately 6 hours. Now I've been doing these doors and leaving them 48 hours before I'm coming back to them because I've got a lot to do on this job. So doors were done one day, wardrobes were done another, and then I come back to the doors the day after. So they'd had plenty of time to dry off. But what you don't want to be doing is having paint edges that dry off before you come to roll them. So just going round, catching that edge to make sure that you've not missed anything, and feathering off a fatty edge, and doing that at the stage of coming to do the top rail, the stiles, middle rail and kick rail at the bottom, allows you to still keep a wet edge and it's not gone off. Does that make sense? It'll make sense when I actually come to roll it, because if you've still got a wet edge going round, when you come with your roller and go over with the roller with the paint on it, the paint's wet, the edge that you're going onto is wet and it blends. Now, one of the characteristics of this paint, this is how good it is the levelling out properties. And I must say, I'm really impressed with how it's levelled out. I've been using that 10mm nap. And really, you do 10mm nap for a primer, stroke undercoat, possibly your first top coat at 10mm. And then when you come to your final coat, what you do is probably use the 5mm nap. Now, I was really happy with how the 10mm nap left a finish, and it levelled out really nicely. That I'm not saying I don't want to go to a 5mm nap, but I'm happy with the 10mm. So I'm sticking with the 10mm. It puts plenty of paint on. It gives a nice amount of paint, and when you see how it dries off, and I don't know whether you'll see it on that. No, you probably can't. I'm brave enough to say this roller finish with this 2 fussy blokes is as good as a spray finish. I'm not far off it. I'm not far off it. So I'm going to say again, this paint, AC Thane, it's in Portugal. I can't get it in the UK. I like it. I really do like it. The levelling out properties are really nice. The open time's quite good if you work quickly with it. 30 minutes, touch dry, which is brilliant. Quite possibly you could get 2 coats on in a day if you've got a warm weather. I've got warm weather, but I'm in a cool air-conditioned house, so I've left it that 48 hours, as I've said. Another thing about this paint, because I asked the sales guy in the shop, that's another video. There'll be a video there about going into the shop later on in this series of videos. It's got polyurethane in it. You're going to say, what do you mean polyurethane? Well, think of your varnishes. Your hard varnishes have polyurethane in it. This has got polyurethane in it. It makes this paint like a scratch-resistant paint. So that's how good this paint is. I'm really impressed. Stop shouting at me. Stop it. 3.8 litres in a can. It's just under 4 litres. Retailing at €116. Benjamin Moore Scuffex territory, that is. I'll tell you at the end whether I think I prefer this or Scuffex. So let me get my paint out. I'm going to set you up. I won't talk through it, but I'll show you in real time me painting this door. And I'll do it in under 10 minutes. Then we'll recap. So let me set up. See you in a bit. Right, with you. I'm going to chop my head off. How good's that, chopping my head off? I'm using that Worcester steel Pelican roller bucket stroke. You know what I mean. That. Really been happy with that. I mean, I'm a good number of days in using it. The liners are brilliant. I explained all these on the last video. And there's my 2 Fussy Blokes roller sleeve. That's the 10mm nap. This now is probably, I'm using a new one each day. And how many doors have I got? I've got 3 door sides to finish. So I use that over the day and it stays lovely all day. Here's my Arrowworthy Classic brush that I'm using because my 2-inch slash cut is wearing a bit too much, so I'm using this one. It's quite delicate, cuts in really nicely. When I go across the bottom of the door, I don't know whether you can see that because I can. When I cut across the bottom of the floor, it cuts in nicely, and I'm really happy with it. And before anybody shouts at me anymore, all the edges, hinge edge, was done this morning. I went around every door and did the hinge edges first because I needed a small brush. And I thought, why go around doing a door with a hinge? Oh, you know. So I did all the hinge edges first. And then the other side of the door, which is more the opener, I did the actual lock rail edges at the time of doing the other side of the door. So this side of the door, are you following me? This side of the door is actually the easy side. I've got no hinge protruding out that I've got to cut around. All I've got to do is the mouldings, the panels, whiz round the outside of the moulding and then roll it. Easy. I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm going to get on with it. Oh, stop it. I'm starting. I will say, because you probably won't hear me, make sure you got enough on your brush. And when you're actually rolling the centre panels, make sure there's enough paint on the actual roller, because what you don't want to be doing is over-rolling the small amount of paint you're getting on. And then when it dries off, you'll see bits of tram lines. Now, if you've got plenty of paint on, not to the point of it running, but if you've got plenty of paint on that roller, it'll flow out nicely. And because of the levelling out properties, it's going to settle nicely. Right. Doing my mouldings. Slightly going onto that inner frame of the door panel. All the way around. When I did the first coat, these mouldings, I did the inner part of the moulding and the outer at the same time, but did find that because I've got warm weather, that part of paint that was touching the stiles and the rails was drying off a bit quick for me. It didn't matter for that first coat. Right, I've loaded that up. It didn't matter for that first coat too much. Right, I'm just going around that frame of the panel. Don't need to put really any more on your roller because with it being loaded up, there's plenty on it. So that's the frame of that panel done. Right, put a bit more paint on because it's a big panel. Starting in the middle, I'm doing a bit of a, you see what I'm doing? All over the place. It's a proper W. Across, getting it all the way round. Right. Not putting any more on, I'm literally going up and down just to lay that off. I'm not putting too much pressure on to ooze any more paint out. And that is beautiful. In the word of Bernard Matthews, beautiful. Or is it beautiful? Right, bottom panel. I'm doing exactly the same, and you're going to question me in a minute. I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to show you something. Well, I'm not showing you, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it. Right. All the way around. Right, I'm coming to the roller again, just do that bit of a frame. Bit more paint on. And then gently lay it off up and down like that. Right, while I'm here, I'm just dust off the floor. I'm working with very primitive sheets. I'm just going to cut carefully across that bottom edge. Now once I've cut across that bottom edge, I just feather that fatty edge off. And you're going to say to me, Phil, why are you cutting in all your bits from the bottom up? Quite simple. I've had a number of days painting doors and my knees are killing, so up and down any more than I need to be doing is not being very kind to me. So I've done those lower sections. That's why I'm starting down at the bottom, working up and then coming back down. You see where I put the paint on? I'll just feather it off so there's no fatty edge. That amount of paint on that edge going around that moulding is going to stay wet long enough for me to come back with the roller. And that's what we say about wet edges. Right, can you see that? No, whether you can, it's slightly different colour. Right, I'm loading my roller up again. Not too much, but enough on it. Now I'm going to start on the style that's got the lock on it. And I'll feather it off just beyond the lock handle area. Right, I'm going across the top. Now, I'll come back to you in a moment. The beauty with this Too Fussy Blokes roller, if you use the end, can you see that end there? I can go really close to the actual moulding frame, slightly onto it, and it'll shape to it. Can you see that? That is better. So I can get really, really close and you don't see any brush mark where I've gone around these edges of that moulding. Working quickly, coming down now. I'll just lay that off gently, feathering away into nothing. I'll do that middle rail. We've got no mullion rails on this because it's just top, middle and bottom rail. Middle rail's done. I'm going to put a bit more paint on now. I'm coming up the lock style. Feathering into the lock. That's why I brought it down to there first. I'm just feathering it away. coming down the hinge style, and again feathering that off, pulling my sheet away from that bottom edge, and you're using the metal part of the roller as a guide against the floor. I'm whizzing across that floor so I'm not catching the marble tiles. I'm coming back up to the base rail, rollering all that, and then there's enough paint on the roller just to finish those last little bits. And there we have it. We've been about 10 minutes. We're in about 10 minutes on that. Let's bring you down a bit. I couldn't bring me proper tripod, so I brought my mini one, my travel mini tripod. That's better. Right, I can talk to you now. Really happy how that went on. I know I was talking to you, so I did stop, didn't I? But you can see what I've got here. Move my mic round. Got my duster brush. There's me little roller tray thing, whatever you want to call it. Now, I don't want anybody saying, oh, you didn't sand it down, you didn't sand it down. Everything was sanded down after. Well, obviously I sanded down before I primed, but then I sanded down, nibbed down with the Merca Gold Flex pads after the primer coat. And then these just had a little nib down after the first coat. Now, can you see it? Good, I've got the light coming across. Can you see that little, I'll say a little bit of a pimply finish? There you go, that's brilliant, you can see it. Now that levels out. Don't forget, this is a 10mm nap. You'd have less than that if you had a 5mm nap. Good, I'm loving it, how we can see it. You can't see it that way, but you can see it that way. I don't want to kick my painter. There you go, can you see that? I can. Now when that levels off, you'll go, wow. You'll go, wow. Yeah, we can see that. I'm going to swivel you around. So I'm going to stop now. Back in the room. What do you think of that then? That flows out beautifully. And you'll go, oh, I don't like that roller finish. I tell you what, you know, when that's dry, this paint, it flows out and it levels to a beautiful. What I would say to you is, it levels out to a beautiful finish. So I tell you what, let me stop and I'll take you to a door that's finished. I said I'll find a door that's dry. Right, if we can see, look at the sheen on there. That's got a lovely satin finish. There is no pimple on there, and my neck is on the line. I'm going to say that's as good as me spraying with an HVLP. Yeah. If you're not into spraying, these rollers are really good, aren't they? But this paint is really good. What have we got in the UK that the paint's as good as this? Because I think I'm struggling. I've done a lot of testing of paints recently, and I'm thinking this is the best paint I've used in a long, long while. I'm going to say this is the best paint I've ever used. Yeah, I'm going to say this paint is the best paint I've ever used. And CIN, which are a Portuguese company, ought to be in the UK. Because I tell you what, if I could get my hands on this to try it as a white paint, as a coloured paint, as a colour, this, I'm really impressed. I'm going to show you another door. I'm on another door. These are the bigger doors. Now, don't forget, I've had limited supplies, i.e. I've not been able to have a proper dust sheet. I've not been able to have proper fillers. I've managed to get, because I brought some with me, some isomat cork. But, you know, on these panels, they're a floating panel. So I've not corked any of these edges. And the paint's filled a lot of the gaps. But I must say, I don't know what you can see on this one. There's no orange peel on there. There's no traditional orange peel. I'm going to say about traditional. If you're a painter of 30, 40 years ago, and I said to you, you'd do a door with a mini roller, a rad roller, you'd be thinking of something with a bit of a fabric, like a mini sheepskin, but fabric, or it'd be a foam sponge roller. And you'd go, oh yeah, you're going to get a real proper pimply roller orange peel finish. You know what? This paint's levelled out with that 2 Fussy Blokes 10mm. And I'm going to say, that's brilliant. I can't say any more than that. It's really good paint. I'm loving it. CIN need to be in the UK. I bet there's some videos are coming up at the side now and I'm finishing. So please watch those. And there's the series of this in the Algarve painting. So this paint, brilliant. I love it. I'm in love.